Welcome to the Social for Brokers podcast. Today, I have a fantastic guest for everyone, somebody that has 20,844 subscribers on YouTube, the last time Nicola checked. And some of her mortgage videos have actually reached over 200,000 people on YouTube, which is just incredible. Now, as well as running an extremely successful YouTube channel, Nicola also runs the award-winning business DM Mortgages. So we're going to talk today about how the YouTube channel brings her leads into the DM Mortgages business. Now, if you haven't guessed who I'm talking about by now, and you're not watching on YouTube, you'll see I've got with me Nicola McKenzie, who's fantastic. So welcome onto the podcast, Nicola.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back on. We've had Nicola on the podcast before talking about running the business, but today is purely about YouTube. So what we're going to talk about is how Nicola set it up, how she creates content for the YouTube channel, how she uploads it, and how it benefits the business as well. Now, this episode is pretty much going to be giving away the blueprint of how to make a successful YouTube channel. So before we get into the YouTube side of things, Nicola, could you give us a bit of a background as to who you are, where you've been, and how you've got to where you are today, please?
Yes, of course. So I started out in financial services when I was 17. So talking 20 years ago now. At the time, like most people, fell into it by accident. So I was at uni, college, and it was purely just to pay my way through that. So my mom, she works at HSBC and she still works there today. She got me the job at HSBC.
Okay.
So I actually started my first financial services role as collections, customer service, that kind of thing. Moved to London, went to work for an investment bank, and then came back up to the Midlands and started getting into mortgage advice. So met Alex, he was a mortgage advisor. Alex is now, we're married. So that kind of, I guess, inspired me to go more down the advisory route.
Okay.
Got a job as a mortgage broker for a company that, let's just say, were probably a little bit shady.
Oh, right. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I say shady, but I mean, essentially, they took me on. Probably shady is not the right word, but they took me on with one promise and did completely something else. Okay. So that kind of sprung us into action because Alex at the time was a mortgage broker as well. And we said, do you know what? Let's do something for ourselves. Let's set up our own business. But actually, at the time, because it was 2011, the market was, on its knees at that point. Mortgages were not really saying a lot. So hence why we actually started the business, estate planning, offering complimentary wills with protection on the back of it. And we still use that model today as well. It works incredibly well. We've been successful with it, so much so that we do now offer our estate planning online will writing platform out to other brokers. To adopt a similar model, which is mylastwill.co.uk. But ultimately, we started the business for the first 6-7 years with that model, and then reintroduced mortgages only about four years ago, something like that. Wow. Maybe about 4 years ago. And we've also expanded the business as well to now include, we do software, so we build our own CRM systems in-house. And we also now, recently, we got regulated by the Solicitors Regulation Authority last year, I think it was. Yeah, so we now offer family law advice as well, all under one roof.
Gosh, wow. So it's kind of gone from just you two to how many's in the team now across the Dunn McCarthy brand?
I lose count. I think it's about 60.
Wow.
Across
and you're running that day to day?
Across legal and financial. And I'd probably say it's 50-50 in each business. So there's about, including administrate, about 20 brokers, and then about 5 to 10 admin, something like that.
Wow. Incredible. I mean, that's inspirational in itself. So we could just stop the podcast here and just say, thanks very much for popping on. But we're going to get into...
I love your podcast, Chris.
Oh, thank you. That's really cool. We've had some great guests in the past, and obviously Nicola's been on in the past. And if you are looking for more business tips with Nicola, if you search Nicola McKenzie, Social for Brokers in YouTube or on your podcast, you'll pick up an episode where Nicola gives away this amazing tip about booking like 15-minute chats with clients first to work out what their needs are. And that's a massive game changer. A lot of people have messaged me about that episode saying that's changed my business completely. So go back and take a listen to that one. But today is purely going to be about YouTube. So we're going to take it step by step from idea generation all the way through to promoting the videos and how it generates your business, if that's all right with you, Nicola.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's get into it. So how beneficial is it for your business to be on YouTube to start with?
Of course, you know, it is definitely beneficial. I wouldn't spend time doing it if I didn't think it was.
Yep.
So it's you know, it is. We spoke about this on the last podcast, didn't we, Chris? I'm very much so at Dun & McCarthy. One of my main duties is marketing. So I'm, you know, there's, as well as the day-to-day running, I deal with all the finances in the business. I do the marketing and other bits and pieces. But with marketing, I think that people should, well, I certainly understand how important a brand is. So the point being is that, yes, don't get me wrong, we do have analytics built into certain websites and things so that we can see where people are visiting from, etc. But one of the limitations with social media is that you don't always know that a customer came from social media.
Yeah.
You know, when I look at how much our businesses, you know, our turnover as a business and our profits for that matter have gone up quite a lot in the last 3-4 years. But that's not just down to social media, because we've also implemented and spent 2 years building a CRM system. There's lots of things that we've done in the last few years that I think have contributed to that, with social media being one of those things.
So you can't pinpoint those exact moments, videos, posts that have initiated an appointment.
Exactly. It's sometimes difficult to do that. But again, I know it's beneficial because I'll give you an example. So on my YouTube channel, I've got playlists. Obviously, it's a lot of mortgage content, but there's quite a lot of protection content there as well, because as you know, Chris, we do lots of protection. In fact, financial services, that's where the majority of our revenue comes from in our business. We're very heavily involved in protection because we obviously do protection, not just on the back of mortgages, but also on the back of the wills we do.
Yep. So it's a core part of your business.
Exactly. So 3/4 of our brokers are estate planning and protection advisors. They're not authorised to do mortgages. So that tells you that obviously we do a lot of protection. So the point being is that when I'm looking at inquiries, so for example, I had a customer call us up and ask for a power of attorney. And the reason that they'd asked for the power of attorney is because they saw us on YouTube. Now, I've never done a video on powers of attorney on my YouTube channel.
Oh, really?
I've never done a video on powers of attorney. So my point being, that customer obviously must have Googled Dun & McCarthy. We've got 2 websites. We've got DM Mortgages, and then we've got a separate Dun & McCarthy group website, which talks a lot about estate planning. So they must have somehow ended up on the group website.
Okay, yep.
Looked around, saw that we do lots of trusts and other, you know, estate planning services, and thought, oh, wow, this is great, and inquired about something that they never saw advertised. But again, because they've clearly got some kind of, you know, they've bought into our brand, shall we say, that they've come to us for something else that we do. And only by chance they told us that they had heard about us through the chat.
That's exactly what you're saying. There's build a brand and then you can help sell anything. And it's very rare it's very rare that somebody will phone you up and go, hello, I have seen your details by searching you on Google and navigating to the 5th page, and that's why I'm calling you. They might have seen you on social the week before. They might have been told by a friend. Then they've Googled you. Then they've seen another social media post. You never really know their definite journey of how they've come to the decision of calling you, have they?
Exactly. Like I say, a lot of the time we do, because we do track things, but a lot of the time we don't. So it's a bit of a mixed bag to fully quantify. But you're exactly right there, Chris, in what you mentioned about, you know, building a brand in terms of you can then, like you say, offer other services. And I guess it's like, you know, if we look at branding and, you know, perfume makers, they often cross over into loads of other things. Like they'll say, just look at Jimmy Choo, random example.
Just about to say Jimmy Choo, yeah.
You think about his shoes, that's the first thing you think about. But now they do bags, now they do perfume, now they do so many different things, you know, and that's typically how brands work.
Buy into the brand at the beginning and buy everything else that they have.
That's it. So I think what we've been trying to achieve is it's about a brand as opposed to any one product or any one service.
Love it. And that's the YouTube channel is part of the social media brand. So talked about how beneficial it is. Let's start from the very beginning. So you're sat there at the beginning of January 2024, say, and you're thinking, right, first thing, how do you come up with the topics of what to speak about on YouTube?
Yeah, really good question, Chris. Now, I typically, in terms of the subject matters, I genuinely take it from what clients ask me a lot of the time.
Okay.
So if a customer asks me a question, I think, well, if they've asked that question, chances are 100 other people are asking that same question. So that's the first thing. I also think that I do probably have a natural skill, if you like, of putting myself into a customer's shoes and thinking, well, if I was a first-time buyer, which I once was, what would I want to know about the process? And I think if you really look at it and strip it back and look at it from that perspective and try and be the consumer yourself, you can also easily come up with topic ideas. And also with ChatGPT, and you know how much of a fan I am of it, that's helped me recently as well. I'm not going to lie. So, you know, again, and I will say that with AI, sometimes people use AI and they're not. With AI, if it's something that's new to you, by the way, you know, if you're using it and you know how to use it, great. But if it's new to you, AI is only as good as the information that's fed into it. So you have to be very specific and particular about what you're asking it for, if that makes sense. But AI can come up with and has come up with, you know, some things that I wouldn't have always thought of.
And that's it, is knowing what information to put into ChatGPT. You can ask it to come up with 20 video titles for a UK mortgage market, but it's how you ask those questions and how you get the best out of it, isn't it?
So I can't remember the specifics of exactly what I put into the AI, but as an example, if I was doing it now, I'd probably put something along the lines of, you know, if I was a first-time buyer, what about the process might I be worried about? Give me 10 ideas around this.
Great idea, yeah. To kind of putting AI in the shoes of the first-time buyer.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, it might spit out 10 ideas. I probably will hate 5 of them, but 5 of them will be decent.
Yeah.
You know, that's how AI works. It's not perfect, but it's great as a starting point, and it's great to come up with things that I might not have thought about. But like I say, up until that point, and I only get AI to help with a few topics here and there, the majority of it is customer questions. And as well, you know, if you've got friends and family, it's sometimes good to ask, like I say, you can put yourself in the shoes of a consumer, but sometimes as a mortgage broker, we're not always going to think in the same way that a consumer might. So to ask a first-time buyer in your family or someone around that age group of when people typically buy a house, you know, if you were going to buy a property, what might be the first 10 questions you ask your mortgage broker?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, speaking to family and friends for topics, because these are people that are clients themselves. Great idea.
Exactly.
And anybody listening, it's sorry, there's a bit of an issue with the internet on my side, not Nicola's. It's definitely my side. So if you are listening, there's a few skips in it. Apologies. We'll try and get them mopped up in after editing as much as possible. So when you then come to writing the script, because this is a big thing that everybody has fear about, what do I actually say? Do you write an actual script and read it out word for word? How does that work?
Really good question again. So I do write scripts, definitely. Oh my word, if I was to go in front of a camera without a script, I'd be there all day. I would be there all day. So yeah, I definitely do have scripts as pointers. Now, sometimes I don't necessarily read the scripts verbatim word for word, but I do stick to the script in the main. And the reason why I write scripts as well, because obviously I know my stuff, right? But if I'm doing a 10-minute video, we all know that the optimum time scale for a video on YouTube, they say 6 to 8 minutes. A lot of my content is probably closer to the 10-minute mark. But if I didn't have a script and a process to follow, I'd be waffling. That's what would happen. I'd end up waffling and I wouldn't get the optimum time out of that 10 minutes. So for me, having a script allows me to stick to and not veer off on tangents, stick to, again, making that content as valuable as possible to the listener. Because
that's a good point.
Sorry, I was just going to add, Chris, you could argue that, well, you don't need scripts when you're with a customer. Of course not, but I've got an hour with a customer. I haven't got an hour with the YouTube followers. I've got 6 to 8 minutes, 10 at most. I've got to capture their attention and I've got to build value into a very short time. So for me, a script is the way to do that. But again, everyone is different. Some people can do it without a script and they'll do it amazing, and that's great. But yeah, that's the way I personally prefer to do it.
Great point about you're trying to cram that hour's appointment into 6 minutes about what's going to happen to rates in 2024. Do you know what I mean? If somebody asks you that on the phone, you've got 15, 20 minutes to have a natter and tell them what you think. But on a YouTube video, you have to hit home with that point. And like you say, scripts are the best way to do that. So as a mortgage broker, in January 2024, I've got my topics. I've now got scripts for all those topics. Let's talk about technology and tools that you use. So the first thing is, do you use teleprompters to read the script out? How do you read that script on a screen?
Do you know what? It's quite funny, actually, because only recently have I tried using a teleprompter. So, I've been doing YouTube for many years now. I used to just literally stick little notes here and there around the camera.
Did you?
Just kind of glance at them. Yeah. If you look close enough, you'll see my eye line veering off at times, but that's what I used to do.
Right. Okay. I'll have a look out for them then.
No, you're going to be like, I can see what she's doing now. But yeah, I've started using a teleprompter more recently. And again, I don't necessarily follow it verbatim because sometimes I do like to, get a bit more passionate and just add a few bits in and stuff. So I'd say that I probably flip between the two. But yeah, the teleprompter has been working fairly well recently.
Okay, because I've seen, and you can get these off Amazon, it's just like a mirror that you can put the wording on your phone and put the mirror, and you'll be able to read straight off your phone if anybody wants to look at something like that.
And as well, you can get apps now where you can what's the word? So like on your iPhone, rather than you can get the teleprompter on that part of the screen, if that
it rolls at the top, doesn't it? Yeah.
So I don't use that, but I've heard that it exists, and that could be useful, I suppose.
Could be useful for a few people if they wanted to.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think more short form content would be ideal. Okay, perfect. So we've talked about the teleprompter, we've got the topics, we've got the scripts. Now, who records the videos for you?
Not me.
Okay, right.
Videographer. So I used to use I used to do it myself back, when we first started. It didn't always warrant a videographer. It was kind of a let's see what happens. And do you know what? It's quite funny you say this, actually, Chris, because my videographer, he does a lot of work overseas. So he recently has got really, really busy, and a lot of the time ends up cancelling the days and stuff that we're planning to film. So actually, I'm considering going back to DIY. Not for all of it, just for when he's out the country and I need content. It's not. So I suppose you could say having a videographer, yes, does solve, depending on who it is. If you've got someone really reliable that's always here, then that's great. But the guy that I have been using, he gets very, very busy. So what I'm thinking is maybe trying to go back to just having a static camera, not moving it.
Right, okay.
Doing it myself, because with the editing, I've actually got, so we are now, again, we're going through a bit of a transition phase, actually, but I've been waiting too long to get my footage from the videographer because he's always out the bloody country.
Right, okay, yeah.
So
you want to get it there and then?
I want to get it there and then. And also, it's easier from an editing perspective if I can sit next to someone and say, change that, edit that. Whereas again, if I make changes, I have to wait another week for them to be made. Then they get sent back to me. It's all very long-winded. So actually, I think I've mentioned this to you before. I actually use Adobe Premiere Pro really, really well because I did a media degree. So I've got, I did TV. So I've got a lot of experience in this anyway. So I do know what I'm doing, which is a fortunate. At the time, I didn't really see that degree was going to benefit me, because obviously I'm not doing anything related, or I wasn't until a few years ago. But the skills that I learned there with editing Premiere Pro have stuck with me.
Have
So
helped.
actually really helped. So
you're going to look at doing it yourself, like you said, but what was the DIY setup before you got a videographer? Like, what kind of equipment were you using? What were you
I
using
was
to edit
still
the
using
videos?
professional equipment.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. So I'd still use a proper camera. I can't remember what brand I was using back then, but it was still a top grade camera. I didn't use my phone because, again, this is just a personal preference, and this isn't me knocking anyone that wants to do it a different way. But personally, I like the clean finish, the professional finish on YouTube. That's just personally what I like. So I've always invested in a good quality camera from day one.
Okay. So maybe with YouTube, we talk about a phone for like the shorter form content, but for YouTube, it might be a bit better to use something a bit better quality. Okay, so we've shot the video now. We've got the equipment. We've shot the video. How do you then upload them to YouTube? What does that involve? Talk us through that step by step.
So YouTube uploading is fairly simple. You have an account and you create video and upload it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it does depending on your internet connection.
Yeah. Apologies about that, guys, listening to this.
No, it's fine. But yeah, it can take some time, but it's a fairly straightforward process to upload, as it is to TikTok and to Instagram. You know, it's not difficult. The uploading part of it isn't.
And it's free to have a YouTube account, isn't it?
Yes, a basic Google account is completely free.
Yeah. Okay, so we've uploaded the video, which is looking great. We're talking about first-time buyer mortgages. How do you promote them then? How do you get them seen? Because you've got a video that's had over 200,000 views. How do you get that many people to watch your videos?
So I think this is one of the misconceptions about social media. It is obviously about a lot of sharing, and for whatever reason, that particular video has been very, very popular. I think because it's about the house buying process. So again, going back to the topics that you're choosing, in my experience as a mortgage advisor, the process is the number one thing on people's mind. What do I do and when? So I think that just happens to be a very popular,
a good topic
people are putting into the search engine. Yeah, exactly. And of course, things like the thumbnails being professional, all of that is obviously going to drive someone to click on the video.
Mm-hmm. So setting yourself up for success.
Absolutely. And as well, the way that YouTube algorithms work, get my words out, algorithms work, is that they will, reward videos where the uploads are consistent. So again, I've not always been perfect with this. Sometimes I will take a month off from uploading if I'm really, really, really busy. But what I'll also do, and I know that you're a fan of this, Chris, is schedule things.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm really, really busy and I know I'm having a busy time, I will try. So at the moment, I've scheduled twice weekly for videos to be released up until Christmas. So I haven't got to worry about it now for the next few weeks. And I think the point I'm making is that YouTube rewards or likes platforms that upload consistently. As TikTok, is it daily that TikTok likes? If you're not uploading consistently, then the algorithms aren't in your favor. So I think if you're going to decide to commit to social media, whatever that platform is, whether it's Instagram, whether it's YouTube or whatever, making sure that you have got the time to dedicate to it and to post consistently is important. Otherwise, I think it's not going to benefit you. I think it is about consistently uploading, and I think sometimes people do underestimate the time. As much as I enjoy social media, and yes, it does benefit the business, it's hugely time intensive. And I think probably one of the reasons that a lot of people do stay away from YouTube in particular is because YouTube is the most time consuming platform that's out there. It's not 60-second videos. It's not the kind of platform where you film in your car. It's not that kind of, don't get me wrong, you could film in your car. There's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, people on YouTube generally are looking for longer form content. So obviously it's going to take longer to plan it. It's going to take longer to film it. Everything is 5 times or 10 times as long as Instagram. But also the time in scripts as well, very time consuming.
It's the planning, and we're going to get into shortly into what the day looks like of planning them. But when we're talking about uploading those videos, and you spoke about the thumbnails to grab people's attention, what do you do in the titles of the video and the descriptions of the videos to try and either boost the algorithm or entice people to watch those videos? Do you do anything in particular?
Do you know? No, actually, can you?
Okay, right. That's interesting because people think that
I
YouTube is something that you have to be right on all the time. Do you see what I mean?
No, I do, but with the titles of the videos, I actually think that some of my titles could probably be improved. But recently I've been using AI to help me with the title.
Okay, yeah, yeah. But this is
So
it's to try and help you rather than do it for you, isn't it?
definitely. So, again, I might say, okay, I'm doing a YouTube video on this topic. Come back to me and give me some ideas on what the title could be. Give me
Hmm.
5 ideas, because I know that 4 of the 5 are going to be rubbish, as we mentioned.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the point, isn't it? AI isn't there to, as we said last week in the webinar we did, it's not there to replace us, but it's there to inspire us and to give us ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
Once I've then
100%
got
agree.
that title from AI, I'll then craft it and I'll change it, but it gives me that good foundation. Do you see what I mean? So the titles is sometimes AI. A lot of the time, it's just what I think. Again, I try, my titles, I suppose, could be a bit more clickbait. I know that clickbait, it works. And
Yeah,
my
yeah.
titles often aren't as clickbait as they probably could be, actually. But, people like to, things like avoiding mistakes. That's what people want. So again, I think it's about looking at what people want, and it's about pain points, isn't it? People like to, or people don't want to buy a property and end up spending unnecessary money. People are worried about buying a house. So I think that the content, a lot of it is driven over how can I ease their fears? How can the title encourage someone and entice someone to click on it and stop them worrying?
Yeah. So giving value even in the title before they've watched the video. And you spoke about clickbait headlines. So for anybody that's listening, clickbait would be something like, you'll never guess what I'm talking about on this video. And then you have to click through to watch it. Now, I know a lot of social media platforms, especially YouTube, are trying to cut down on those, aren't they? But there is some element where clickbait is, do these 5 things to increase your chances of getting a first-time buyer mortgage. That's essentially a clickbait headline, but adds a bit of value because they know they're going to get 5 tools that can help them.
Exactly, as opposed to, I don't know, think of something that could be considered a little bit less enticing. Maybe what is an early repayment charge? You could think of a clever way to make that a bit more clickbait.
Don't get caught out by this by the early repayment charge or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. You've got my point. Yeah,
and it's exactly the same on social media, isn't it? And then I suppose the last question, which is what everybody's dying to hear, is how long does this all take you? So from coming up with the topics to scripting to recording to uploading, say an 8-minute video, on average, how long do you think that would take you?
Okay, let's put it this way. I film, or I aim to film, 4 YouTube videos a week.
Wow, that many?
Yeah.
Gosh.
So for me to do that, this isn't including posting on other platforms. That is including the script writing, the prepping, absolutely everything. That's easily 2 days a week.
So 2 days for 4 videos?
Correct.
Wow. Then running the business, then doing appointments.
Yeah, correct. It's not, again, sorry, the only reason I'm being quite blunt about that is because I do think that people sometimes fall into the trap of thinking that it's some easy answer to being successful on social media. I think it's like anything, Chris. You run a business, I run a business. Social media is, I guess you could say, a business in itself, if you're monetizing the advertising. But the point being is that it still requires a lot of hard work to do it well.
And that's why I wanted you to answer that question honestly, because what will happen is if you're listening to this and go, right, I'm going to do it in January, which is fantastic. If it takes you 1 day to record 1 video, don't panic. You're not behind. Look at Nicola, who's doing 2 videos in a day. And that's somebody that's been how many videos have you uploaded now, Nicola?
Oh, well over 200.
So over 200 videos, you've learnt the mistakes, you know how to make it as slick as possible. If you're taking a day to do a video, I don't think that's bad. So just don't give yourself a hard time, because you've got somebody who's a professional here in it, who has media studies in the marketing degree, those type of things. That's somebody that knows it inside out, and it's 2 good quality videos every day. So 1 a day, I don't think is a hard target or a bad target to reach. I don't think so.
No.
What would
I'd probably say, sorry, just to add that in, I'd probably say that half a day is spent on scripts and preparing what I'm actually going to talk about. A day is spent filming.
Okay.
Maybe 4 to 6. When I say a day, videographer stays for 4-5 hours maybe, so maybe not a full 8-hour day, but a day spent filming, and then I'd probably say half a day on the uploading, the back end, all of that stuff.
And I think it sounds like a very thankless task at the beginning, where you'll put one video out and you'll only get 10 views.
Definitely.
But doing it consistently for a year, you're going to get to 100 views and then 1,000 views. And you can see it works for Nicola. How many years have you been doing YouTube now?
I think I started the channel 4 years ago, maybe 5.
And now 20,000 subscribers, over 20,000 subscribers. We've got to say over, because that was a target that Nicola was trying to get to for a good few months, wasn't it?
It was. I kept watching my YouTube studio thinking, oh, when's it going to hit? When's it going to hit? It actually only hit 20K, I think, last week or the week before. So, yeah.
Which is incredible. Well done. The final thing I would like to ask you before we wrap this up, because this has been fantastic for anybody thinking about getting into YouTube, is what would be your number 1 top tip for somebody that wants to set up a YouTube channel?
Oh, okay. So I would, again, make the commitment to say, I can spend X amount of time on this, schedule it in.
Okay, right.
And be patient. As you quite rightly said, Chris, nothing is going to come from it after 6 months or even a month, a year, really, of consistent uploading. It is a thankless task in the beginning. Completely agree. I would also say that, it doesn't have to be, yes, investing in professional equipment, etc., is great for YouTube, but it doesn't have to be that. So I think if you're accepting of the fact that you perhaps haven't got the time to spend on it, maybe look at a TikTok account or an Instagram account instead.
Yeah.
Because I do think that if you've not got the time to dedicate to a longer form platform, the short form platforms are great if you're more of a spontaneous, let's film on the fly kind of person. People have done great on those platforms.
Yeah, pick the platform that works for yourself, I suppose. But I love the idea of scheduling it into your diary. I think that's fantastic, because it means it will happen then. Definitely. But Nicola, thank you so much.
I'll also just add in as well, I do think that whether or not you use a script, that's entirely individual, but at least planning what you're going to say in the videos, I think, is important in some way, shape or form. What is it? Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. So that's my motto with most things.
Awesome. Love it. Nicola, thank you so much. There's so much in there that people can implement straight away. And it just shows how easy it is to start that YouTube channel. It's completely free. You can upload your videos, maybe just invest in a bit of equipment, but have your script ready. I think that's quite a key one. We like to make a donation of £10 to a charity of your choice. Nicola, which charity would you like us to make a donation to?
I forgot about that, Chris. You've got me now. Tell you what, we just ran a marathon for Tommy's baby charity, a half marathon. So let's add it to that.
Tommy's do it for that. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Nicola. I'm sure we'll have you on again in the future, but there's loads in there for people looking to start a YouTube channel. Where's the best place for them to connect with you if they do want to connect?
LinkedIn. You can message me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place where I pick up DMs. Yeah, LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time, Nicola. Appreciate it.
No worries, Chris. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.